Now I want to talk to you about networking with purpose, the art of working a room. Now I tend to be very social. I like people. I'm a real chatterbox. If my wife sends me to the grocery store, I could be gone for hours because I literally talk to everyone. Small talk to me is interesting and I'm always curious to know about people. My wife, on the other hand, finds small talk to be exhausting. It's very tiring and it's work for her. For me, it's socializing. So I really enjoy the whole social aspect of real estate. But connecting with people is a bit of an art form. You've got to do it with confidence and you've got to do it with enthusiasm. And you've got to be interested in what they're interested in. You got to care about what they care about, and in the conversation, they'll get the fact that you do, and they'll find that intoxicating and want to continue to talk to you. So it's just sort of natural for me, but other people have to go through this exercise of kind of learning this. The other thing I would say to you that I realized very early on in my career, if it was a Rotarians meeting or a Kiwanis meeting or a Builders Association meeting, my objective when I went to that meeting was to get business. Yes, I come in under the cover of socialization and I'm connecting and chatting with everybody, small talking with everybody. But for me, small talk always has, I'm going somewhere with it. I have an intention. I talk with intent. And as time goes on, I become more and more elegant and poetic in my conversation and talk tracks. But really, I enter that room with an idea in mind. What I used to say to myself, even as a young man, 21, 22 years of age, going to a Chamber of Commerce or a Rotarian meeting or Knights of Columbus, my objective was to go in and meet people, yes. Hand out my business cards, yes. But walk out with, and my number was 5. I want 5 people's business cards that would be interested enough to have a conversation with me next week about real estate. So yes, I move around, I talk to people, I smile, I laugh, I share a libation and a cocktail and all of that schmoozing, backslapping and all the stuff we do. I am really interested in them. But understand something, I went there with something in mind. I had an idea. My idea was I needed to meet people who might want to buy or sell real estate. And that thought is never too far from the front of my mind where I am. It's always there. It's elegantly laying below the surface, but it is there. Now, I never realized that people found this to be an uncomfortable experience. And I've often seen people make mistakes in this environment. Let me give you an example of a few. For instance, when you're first introduced to somebody, you need to shake their hand with confidence and introduce yourself. What I find people will often do, and they think it's funny, but you always have the guy when you're at a Knights of Columbus or a Shriners meeting, and you're introduced to him, and he reaches across and he shakes your hand, but he grabs your hand so hard he hurts it, and he shakes it, and then you do the, oh my gosh, and he's like, oh, like that's funny. It's nothing funny about hurting somebody's hand, and that certainly is not going to endear me to want to do business with him. So I don't think that's a good idea. Then there's always the person you go to shake their hand and they do the Lucy handshake thing, and you're thinking, what do I do with that? It's like grabbing a piece of lettuce. So that's not it either. What I need you to do when you're introduced to somebody is look them in the eye, give them that handshake of confidence, don't hurt them, introduce yourself, and then ask who they are. And when they tell you, repeat their name back to yourself. Now you need to lock that name in your mind. It's part of being a great salesperson. You got to remember their name, because when you remember their name, what you're really saying to them is that they're important and they love that. Now, the reason you don't remember people's names is because you don't try. You need to try. So when you're introduced to them, come up with something in the peg system. Try to peg their name to something that you will always, when you see them, remind you of that person. But come up with some sort of association, and you want to say the name back in your mind like 2 or 3 times. So throughout the conversation, I mean, there's nothing more embarrassing than saying to somebody, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. What does that really say? You're really not that important. Now, that's no way for you to develop a relationship with a potential prospect. So you got to hold on to that name. Now, if you want to take it a step further, whenever you see Sally or Steve, you say, hey, Sally, come on over here. I want you to meet Dave. This is Dave Johnson. He owns such and such. Dave's a great guy. I'm really enjoying his conversation. Sally has a business over in such and such. Dave, you would do well to get to meet Sally. And then you introduce the two of them and they start talking. But what Dave is really going to feel cool about is because you remembered his name and you did an introduction with confidence and you brought some depth to that introduction so that it made him feel very secure. He's going to like you. The next time he sees you at another meeting, a Knights of Columbus or a Kiwanis meeting or wherever you are, a Chamber of Commerce, he's going to make a beeline right over and want to talk to you. And that's how we develop relationships. Now, we work in a community, we see the same people over and over again, you're going to cross paths. The fact that you had a chance to meet is the first step in starting to develop that relationship. And you left them feeling that they were important enough that you wanted to hear what they had to say, and you were interested enough to remember their name. So put some effort into this, and if you do, this will become another place where you can get lots of business. Now, often I find when people go to these events, it's usually after work. It's an after work mixer. They haven't had a chance to have dinner. They probably had an early lunch and they're starving. Their blood sugar levels are all whacked out. So the first thing they do is they head over to the shrimp and the cheese tray. They load up their plate. They get themselves a cocktail or a libation. Now they're going to go around and talk to people and introduce themselves. Well, how's this work? You got a plate of food and you got a cocktail in the other hand, and you're supposed to shake somebody's hand and introduce yourself. Doesn't work. Now, do I understand your blood sugar levels are off? Sure. So stay at the buffet, feed yourself for 5 or 10 minutes so you get some balance. Grab your cocktail, put it in your left hand, and start moving around the room elegantly and introducing yourself to people. Keep your right hand available, cocktail in your left hand. Now, I know this all sounds, but how many times have you been to one of those meetings, the guy's balancing a plate of shrimp and cocktail sauce in a cocktail, next thing you know, he's got it on his shirt. And that's because he didn't put things in the right sequence. Now, remember why we came. The primary purpose wasn't here to eat the free shrimp. The primary purpose was to expand your business. The shrimp is just to kind of tie you over until you can get something to eat. So make sure you keep things in the right order of sequence and understand the objective of why you're here. Next thing I want you to do is use someone's name frequently in the conversation when you meet them. It's important. It's the nicest word in the English language as far as they're concerned, and they won't know why, but they will immediately feel a connection to you. Now, don't be weird and use the name too much. Okay, you don't want to stuff the sentence with their name too much. Otherwise, it's kind of like, this is kind of odd. So what you want to do is liberally use their name throughout the conversation, but constantly reminding yourself who they are. Remember, later on, it's going to go a long way when you introduce them to somebody else and you're going to get all the details right. It's going to make that impression. And they won't even know why, but they're going to say, you know what, I really like that guy. I'm not sure what it was about him. I found him very interesting, very charismatic, very gregarious, very engaging. All of those are the qualities of a salesperson. You move around the room elegantly. And what are you interested in when you do? You're interested in them, what they have to say. Now, keep the conversation going. Often when we meet new people, it kind of hits that awkward spot where nobody's saying anything. What do you do in a case like that? You ask questions. Not from a curiosity perspective, not because you're interrogating somebody. So you ask questions politely. Like for instance, you might say, you told me a minute or so ago that you had 2 kids, I think. How old are they? Now, really, what are you saying to somebody when you circle back? It's important. And what am I asking them about? Family. And they're going to start telling me about their kids and where their kids go to school and how long have they been there. And then maybe you're going to ask them, so what do you do when you're not spending time with the kids or at a chamber meeting? They're going to tell you all about their job. So all you need to do is ask the right questions. If you don't know how to keep a conversation going, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. The acronym is FORD. Remember FORD and ask them about them. People don't care about you. They want to tell you about them. So don't get into the conversation and say, I'm great, by the way. I'm a bodybuilder and I do this and I do that. And I'm a big runner and I won this award and I'm a superstar. They don't care. What they want to talk to you about is them. So give them that chance to go on and on and on about how great they are. Let them talk. Ask lots of questions. And when the conversation starts to slow down, think of family, occupation, recreation. What do they like to do when they're not working? Ask them about themselves, and they'll go on and on and on. At the end of the evening, they'll say, I met this guy in real estate. My God, he talked my ears off. Well, you hardly said anything. You just asked them the right questions, and they did all the talking. They'll love you for it. So remember, FORD. Now, whenever you're in a conversation with somebody, if you want to make a point to tell them that you're really listening, stop somewhere along the way and say, a moment ago you said. Now, really what that's saying to somebody is what they're telling you is important enough for you to pay attention. And when you're paying attention, it's a compliment to them. So be thoughtful. Conversations have a beginning and end and a middle. What's the objective here? How are you going to elegantly wrap in that conversation that you're in real estate? And how are you going to get them talking? Ask them lots of questions about them, and they'll want to tell you about it. Don't let your thoughts stray. You know, we've all been in a conversation where somebody has stopped and said, I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Really what they're saying to you is you're boring the hell out of them and they're not interested in what you have to say. Now, you as a sales professional have to make everyone feel important. You know, I talked to a person one time who had the privilege of meeting Mother Teresa. And they were telling me they were in an auditorium with thousands of people. And when they were introduced to Mother Teresa, she stopped for a moment which she said felt like a lifetime. And she had a conversation with me. And the conversation was with me. Even though there was thousands of people around, I was made to feel for that one moment in time that I was the only person in the room. Caring about what other people care about is what caring's all about. And if you want a relationship, you got to care about the people you're talking to. Show a genuine interest, not something at a surface level. I mean, really ask questions about what they're saying. And they will talk. They'll talk your ears off, and they'll love you for it. So be interested in them. Ask questions about them. Give them your undivided attention. For the moment, be with them. And if you are, the connection will be so much stronger. Now, what's the objective here at the end of the evening? You want to gather up some names, hand out some cards, but most importantly, you want to have an appointment with somebody after the event is over. So what does that mean? It doesn't mean that you're coming over to list their house. It means you're going to pick up the phone and have I'll call you next week. Let's get something on the calendar when we can get together. That's really the objective of this. So you can feel comfortable that you had a social event, connected with a lot of local people, handed out a bunch of cards, and I got 3 appointments next. When I get back to the office tomorrow, I got to call 3 people to set up appointments for next week. Beautiful. You did a great thing today. It was well worth the time. And think about this. Wherever you are, it's making a contribution to the community, and it's making your place, your town, a better place to live.